All right, so we're diving into KPI Green Energy today. You sent over their recent investor call transcript.
Yeah.
And I got to say, I'm pretty excited about this one.
Yeah, me too. It's
They're doing some really interesting things in India's renewable energy sector.
Yeah, it's really fascinating how they're positioning themselves. They're not just kind of, riding the renewable wave. They seem to be building a really robust business.
Yeah, and they're not just like dabbling in it either. They've gone all in with solar and wind with two like distinct approaches: the IPP, the independent power producer, and then the CPP, the captive power producer.
Right.
So the IPP is where they own and operate the power plants, and then CPP is like they're almost like a contractor building these bespoke renewable energy setups for other businesses. It's like they're covering all their bases.
Yeah, and it's really smart how they're using this two-pronged approach, to manage risk and then also capitalize on the different market opportunities.
Right.
So the IPP model, it provides that like steady, predictable revenue stream, from those long-term power purchase agreements.
Yeah.
But it is very capital intensive.
Yeah.
And then the CPP model, it can be more volatile, but it offers faster growth, and it taps into that increasing demand from companies that are really looking to, go green.
And it's not just about playing it safe with that IPP model either. They're definitely ambitious. They've got a real stronghold in Gujarat, but they're expanding into all these other states. Rajasthan, Maharashtra.
That's right. Yeah, this expansion is really telling. I think about their confidence in India's renewable energy future. It's like they're anticipating this huge energy landscape shift.
Right.
And they want to be ready. They want to be everywhere when the opportunity arises.
Yeah.
They're not just talking about it either. They're securing the land. They're getting those MOUs with the state governments, and they're actively pursuing projects in these new places.
It's like they're playing this really strategic game of chess, to capitalize on this whole green energy revolution.
Exactly.
But with great ambition comes hurdles, right? What are some of the challenges you think they might face?
Well, definitely competition. The Indian renewable energy sector is getting crowded.
Yeah.
And as more players come in, those margins are going to get squeezed, especially in that CPP segment where the competitive bidding is fierce.
Yeah.
So KPI is going to have to leverage their advantages.
Yeah. From what I read, they sound pretty confident in their ability to kind of outmaneuver the competition.
Yeah.
They were really emphasizing their execution speed. They consistently deliver projects ahead of schedule.
Right, which is huge in this industry.
Yeah.
Time is money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you have such significant upfront investment.
Exactly.
So their ability to complete these projects quickly because of their efficient resource planning,
Yeah.
their in-house manufacturing capabilities, which they do through KP Green Engineering.
Right.
And their strong supplier relationships gives them a big edge.
I think they've figured out how to do it better and faster than everyone else.
Yeah.
But even with all that, there's all those external factors to consider, like global supply chain volatility.
Yeah, definitely. The transcript even mentioned the geopolitical tensions and how they could impact the availability and cost of all those critical components like the solar panels.
Yeah.
That's not a risk that they can ignore.
Mm-hmm.
Any disruption in that supply chain could lead to project delays, increased costs,
Right.
and that's going to ultimately affect their bottom line.
Yeah.
But it is good that they're aware of this and they're looking for ways to mitigate the impact. Their in-house manufacturing, I think, offers them some protection from those disruptions, but they can't totally avoid global trends.
Right. It's a tough balancing act, for sure.
Yeah.
They need to stay agile, be adaptable to those external pressures, but also keep moving forward with their growth.
Absolutely. And we can't forget about government policy either.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
While India's current policies are really good for renewable energy,
Yeah.
any sudden shifts could impact their project economics and timelines.
It makes you realize that they're operating in this constantly shifting environment.
Yeah.
They have to be adaptable, proactive, and maybe even a little bit lucky
Yeah, for sure.
to navigate all that.
It comes with the territory, I guess, when you're in a high growth, policy driven sector.
Yeah.
Like renewable energy is.
Exactly. But amidst all that,
Yeah.
they're painting this really positive picture of their financial health.
They are.
They're reporting record revenues and profits, which has got to be reassuring for investors.
Yeah, and they were really clear, too, about addressing those concerns over the share pledge by KPI's CMD.
Yeah.
They explained that it was a legacy issue, from before their IPO.
Right.
And not related to any new fundraising. And SBI, which holds that pledge, is open to releasing it gradually.
Yeah, I think that kind of transparency is always a good sign.
Oh, for sure.
It builds trust and shows that they're willing to address investor concerns directly.
Yeah, transparency is crucial, especially when you're in a sector that's getting so much attention from investors and scrutiny.
They really want to see that message that they're financially sound, ambitious, and committed to that transparent relationship with investors.
Yeah, and it sets a good tone for the rest of our deep dive.
It does. What I'm really curious about is how they're actually putting this financial strength into action.
Yeah.
What specific projects or initiatives are they focusing on to really cement their spot in this market? And what about those rumors of international expansion?
Right.
And venturing into green hydrogen?
Yeah, those are the details I'm really interested in.
Yeah, it feels like we've only just scratched the surface of what KPI Green Energy is really all about.
Yeah, we have.
Let's take a closer look at how they're actually putting their money where their mouth is.
Yeah, let's do it.
And turning that vision into a reality.
Right? Their financials look really good, but it's their execution that I think is most impressive.
Yeah.
They're really focused on operational efficiency, and you can see that in their plant load factor, or PLF.
Now, for those of us who aren't electrical engineers,
right,
can you break down what PLF actually means and why it's so important for a company like KPI?
Yeah, so think of it this way. A power plant's capacity is like the potential energy it could generate if everything went perfect.
Okay.
PLF measures how much of that potential is actually being achieved, in day-to-day operations. So it's all about efficiency.
So it's like you can have this super powerful engine.
Yeah.
But the real test is how it actually performs on the road.
Exactly. KPI has over 533 megawatts of installed capacity right now as of January 2025, and they've got a huge order book, 2,869 megawatts.
Wow.
But what's really impressive is that they're really focused on getting the most out of those assets.
Yeah.
They even highlighted their Havda project, which is a 240 megawatt DC solar plant, and they said it's ahead of schedule.
Oh, wow.
That kind of execution speed is what investors love to see.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and they also mentioned that they have both fixed tilt and tracker-based solar panels.
Does that affect the PLF? Why wouldn't they just stick with one type?
That's where their technical expertise comes in. They explained that fixed tilt panels, they average about 18% PLF.
Okay.
While the tracker-based panels, which actually follow the sun's movement, can get 23-24%.
Oh, wow.
So it's all about strategic mix, based on the location, cost, and how they can get the maximum output.
So they're not just putting solar panels wherever, they're actually using data
right,
to make these decisions to optimize performance.
Exactly.
Which I imagine has a big impact on their financials.
Oh, for sure. It contributes. Now, remember, we talked about those different models, IPP versus CPP.
Yeah.
Well, the investor call actually had some interesting insights into how those segments perform financially.
Can you remind me again, what are those key differences between the two?
Yeah, so the IPP model where KPI owns and operates the power plants, that's their bread and butter. It provides long-term contracts.
Yeah.
That's steady revenue stream, but it requires a lot of upfront investment. And then CPP, which is where they build those renewable setups for other companies, it's more project-based.
Right.
It can grow faster, but there's also more variability in their earnings.
So they're balancing steady income with the potential for really rapid expansion.
Exactly.
Which sounds like a smart move, especially in a volatile market like that.
Yeah, they're thinking long term.
Yeah.
But they're also keeping an eye out for those opportunities to grow quickly.
Okay.
And their ITP segment generates a lot of cash flow, which allows them to invest in new projects without taking on a lot of debt. So it's a good foundation for future growth.
Right. With so many other companies entering the renewable energy market, though, how does KPI plan to stay ahead of the competition?
Well, they're not just competing on price. They're emphasizing their advantages, which is execution speed, but technical expertise and a forward-looking approach to technology. We talked about their speed, but they also have a really experienced team of professionals, including former government officials.
Oh, wow.
Which is a huge asset.
Having that inside knowledge of the regulations must be really valuable.
It is. It explains why they're able to navigate all those complexities and get projects up and running so quickly.
Right. Makes sense.
It's a big advantage in a sector that's full of bureaucratic hurdles.
Yeah.
But speed isn't their only differentiator.
Right.
They're also using cutting-edge technology, like they use robotics for panel cleaning.
Wow. And
they have this sophisticated network operations system that does real-time performance monitoring.
So they're not just building power plants, they're building smart power plants.
Exactly.
Combining renewable energy with technology to make everything more efficient and profitable.
Yeah, and that kind of forward-thinking approach also extends to their exploration of new areas like green hydrogen,
right,
But even with all these strengths, they still face this challenge, as we talked about,
Right.
competition, supply chain volatility, and the risk of policy changes.
It sounds like a tough balancing act.
It is, but that's the sign of a company that's in it for the long haul. They're aware of the risks, they're working to mitigate them, and they're constantly adapting to stay ahead.
Yeah.
But I think what really sets them apart is their ability to connect all of these things together into a cohesive and compelling story.
I totally agree. It's one thing to have a great business plan, but it's another to actually execute it.
Yeah.
And KPI seems to be doing both, which is what makes them such an interesting company.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't forget those hints they dropped about international expansion
Right.
and green hydrogen.
Yeah, those are the pieces of the puzzle I'm really excited to explore.
Me too.
It sounds like KPI isn't content with just being a big player in India.
Yeah.
They're looking at the global stage now.
Okay. Let's dive into those plans and see how they could shape their future. We've been talking about how well KPI is doing in India, but they've also hinted at these international ambitions.
Right.
Like they don't want to limit themselves to just one market.
Yeah, it seems like they're taking a really strategic approach to international expansion. You know, they're being very selective about which markets they enter,
Right.
focusing on the ones that really play to their strengths.
Okay.
So it's not about just being everywhere.
Yeah.
It's about making smart moves to set themselves up for success.
They were pretty quiet about the details in the investor call.
Yeah.
But they did say, there's a surprise announcement coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Where are they headed?
It's tough to say for
Yeah.
sure, but if you look at their strengths, some regions kind of stand out.
Like,
Well, Southeast Asia, for one, their energy demand is growing really fast.
Right.
And there's a big push for renewables there.
hmm,
They could also use their expertise in places like Africa
okay.
or Latin America, where there's tons of potential for solar and wind power.
It's exciting to think about all the possibilities.
Yeah.
If they can expand internationally successfully,
Mm.
that could be huge for them.
Yeah, it could really change the game, opening up all these new opportunities for growth
Yeah.
and diversifying their revenue.
Right. But going global comes with its own set of challenges.
Yeah, definitely.
They'll have to figure out different regulations, different cultures,
Right.
and maybe even deal with political instability.
That's right.
That's a lot to navigate.
Yeah, they'll need to adapt their strategies and probably even form partnerships.
Right, to help them navigate all that.
Exactly.
And then on top of all that, they're also interested in green hydrogen.
Yeah, that's right. They see their power generation expertise as a big advantage in that area, which is still kind of emerging.
Green hydrogen's a hot topic right now.
It is, and KPI seems to be trying to get ahead of the curve.
Yeah, they even mentioned a prototype plant coming soon. So they're not just talking about, they're actually doing it.
Yeah, it seems like they're serious about making a real impact.
Well, green hydrogen is supposed to be the key to decarbonizing those industries that are harder to electrify.
Yeah, like heavy industry and long-haul transportation.
Exactly. If they can become a major player in green hydrogen, that could open up a whole new market for them.
Yeah, and it would make them a leader in the whole energy transition.
It's like they're building this whole ecosystem of renewable energy solutions, solar and wind farms,
Right.
and now green hydrogen production.
It's really impressive.
They're really covering all the bases.
That's what makes KPI Green Energy so interesting. They're not just following trends. They're actually shaping the future of energy.
Oh, right.
They're ambitious, they're strategic, and they're not afraid to try new technologies and explore new opportunities.
And they seem to really get the urgency of the climate crisis.
Yeah.
And they're taking action. So there you have it. We've done a deep dive into KPI Green Energy.
Yeah.
We've looked at their business model, their growth,
Right.
and their plans for the future. We've seen their strengths, the challenges they face, and their dedication to innovation. It's clear that KPI Green Energy is a company to watch.
Definitely not just for investors,
Right.
but for anyone who cares about the future of renewable energy and creating a more sustainable future.
As they continue to grow and innovate, it'll be interesting to see how they handle all the changes that are happening in the world.
It'll be fascinating to follow their journey.
Their story's not over yet,
Not even close.
and I think we're going to hear a lot more from them in the years to come.
I think so too.
That's it for this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious.
Yeah.
And remember, the future of energy is brighter than ever.
Okay.
Sevi Flick.